So it's always a treat to be here. I'm going to start this morning by using my experience today as a little bit of a case study in some of the challenges that we are all facing in virtual world. So if you were bravely up for a double dose and you were here last week, you'll notice I'm not in the same place. Last week was office moving week in my life. So last Monday, I came to you from my home office with a much more domestic but still professional background. And today I'm coming to you from my new office. So I had to do some practice, some tweaking this morning, and I'm going to run through some of the things I had to check and perhaps give you some ideas for things you may need to check as you get camera ready in your job search. So I'm English and I have a very stereotypically English pallor. So one of the things we all worry about on virtual calls is getting enough light. If I have all the lights on in this space, I am invisible. You see the glint of my glasses and a flash of lipstick, and the rest of me just fades into the background. So unusually, I actually needed to control the light in this space. But if I had gone by the standard checklist of make sure you have plenty of light and not checked this ahead of time, you wouldn't be able to see me so well. You wouldn't be able to see my expression. Kirk's playing with light in his space and experimenting with some of the same things. It can make a big difference depending which platform you're on. I did a FaceTime call with family this morning, totally different set of camera specifications that are built into that software. So I had to think about angles differently. Some of you observed last week, I stand up to present. I find this releases adrenaline for me more effectively. It allows me to give a better impression. I put my computer on a high stand, but I have to think about, I'm going to show you a sneak peek behind the scenes here. Do I want the camera pointing this way where you get all of my clutter and my coat and my bike helmet and all the rest of it? Or do I want it this way where it's a much more neutral background? Simply changing where your camera points. Think about, are you making eye contact through the camera? All these little things need to be tested as you make your job search impressions. I'm also going to give you some cues here. Again, if you were here last time, some of this is repetitious, please forgive me. You're going to see me looking over here sometimes. That's my second screen. Now, if I explain to you, when you see me look over here, that's my second screen. I'm checking the chat. I just dropped a document into the chat for you. This is a handout that was also shared last week with some tactical tips and, as Milry said, sort of a self-audit guide there. Once I've told you that's why I'm looking over there, you know that I'm still paying attention. If I don't tell you what I'm doing, and every now and then you just see me doing this, you think, we've lost her. She's off, she's doing something else, she's not paying attention. This is a tip that we learned from telemedicine many years ago. Doctors will cue you, good telemedicine doctors, will cue you about what's going on in the space around them. You can do exactly the same thing. If you know, for example, that you're a pen and paper note taker, you can say at the beginning of the conversation, I'll be taking notes while we're talking. Then I know that you're taking notes. You're not checking your phone and looking at your Instagram likes. You're fully focused in the conversation. I want to mention that chat box for a moment. 2 tips. You own the chat box. The chat box doesn't own you. Use it to support your focus. If you're someone who needs to be fully present to the speaker, to the interviewer, to the individual with whom you're talking, ignore the chat box. Stay present. The way I describe this in trainings is if you're someone who in real life came in, sat in the front row, had your notebook, the chat box is going to distract you. Don't look at it. But if you're someone who came in, sat in the back row or at that table right at the back where there were 3 other wisecrackers and you supported your attention by bantering at that table, it's a legitimate way to support attention. You get these distracting thoughts, you take them out of your head. Put those in the chat box. There'll be at least one other banterer in this group, I promise you, and they will enjoy that interaction and it will help them to focus. Consider the impression you're making in the chat.